In London, audiences were screaming refund in 4 languages. At Disney, Zegler pulled a con so bold in London, audiences were screaming refund in 4 languages. Let's just say that thanks to Zegler, a bad publicity stunt, and a few hundred smartphones, the big number she was supposed to sing in Evita is now all over social media.
It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
But it wasn't sincere because she's had a long history of saying woke, annoying things. Our new Snow White.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
Rachel Zegler
Hollywood has turned on Rachel Zegler, and not quietly. Insiders are calling her the most ungrateful, arrogant actress of her generation. And the backlash, it's louder than ever.
The very first actress in history to become box office poison before she ever came box office.
She didn't just ruin Snow White, she lit a match under Disney's entire brand. Now, insiders call her the cautionary tale of Hollywood ego, with some even branding her the worst casting disaster of all time.
It was a wholesome family film, and now they've turned it into woke trash. Check this out from Wokeness. Disney's Snow White said that harm should befall Trump and his voters. Do not see this film.
It all started with a Hollywood fairy tale. At just 17, Rachel Zegler landed the role of Maria in Spielberg's West Side Story, a dream role. Handpicked by one of the greatest directors alive, she even snagged a Golden Globe. And for a brief moment, it looked like she was destined for A-list royalty. But that was before everything unraveled.
Rachel Zegler's career launched when, at 17, she landed the role of Maria in Steven Spielberg's 2021 adaptation of West Side Story.
The media crowned her the next big thing. Casting directors were obsessed. Studios lined up like she was the second coming of Hollywood royalty. And Disney. They went all in, throwing over $200 million at their woke reimagining of Snow White, convinced they'd found their golden girl. Spoiler, they hadn't. Turns out even CGI money can burn.
An iconic song, yes, but it's the balcony grabbing all the attention.
By 2025, the girl once hailed as Hollywood's next queen wasn't walking red carpets. She was hiding behind them. Twitter turned into a battlefield. Broadway became her therapy session. And while she sobbed through songs in Evita, audiences were too busy making memes about the echo in her half-empty theater.
I think there will be people who are disappointed that she hasn't sung it live in the theatre, but I think it's going to be greatly outweighed by the theatricality of using film in that way.
Evita got so desperate to fill seats, Kay started broadcasting her performance outside the theater, like a last-ditch karaoke plea to passing tourists. Couldn't sell tickets? No problem. Toss a screen on the sidewalk and pray someone mistakes it for a live protest. Tickets didn't just drop, they flatlined. $0. That's how badly people didn't want to hear her sing about Argentina.
But she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
But let's be real, theatergoers weren't the only ones running for the exit. Disney basically handed her a loaded grenade and said, "Be magical." From the moment they cast her as Snow White, the backlash started brewing. It's the 1937 classic. Gave us a soft-spoken, fair-skinned princess full of wonder. Disney's version. Rachel Zegler stomping in like a girl-boss dictator with a chip on her shoulder and a grudge against fairy tales. And the worst part? She helped write the script for her own downfall.
Here's actually Rachel Zegler, who is the new Snow White, and she's talking about Snow White being woke.
Can you tell us a little bit about your version of Snow White?
Yeah, I mean, Snow White is the girl you remember, but she's definitely made for the modern age, and there's such an emphasis on what it really means to be the fairest of them all. And for Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler.
You didn't have to be a hardcore Disney loyalist to feel the whiplash. Families came for nostalgia, the songs, the charm, the childhood magic. But instead, what they got was a politically loaded lecture disguised as a fairy tale. A modernized mess that swapped whimsy for warnings and turned Snow White into a TED Talk with a tiara. people didn't feel inspired, they felt tricked.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
And Rachel, she practically set herself on fire. She called the original prince a stalker, not once, but twice. Said the love story was weird, like she was embarrassed to be part of it. Then came the geodropper. Snow White wasn't. Named for her skin? Nope. It was because she survived a blizzard. A blizzard who approved that rewrite. Probably the same geniuses who replaced the 7 dwarves with glowing CGI blobs. And trust me, we're not even at the worst part yet.
That at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
You heard that right. Zegler not only believes that she's a priceless work of art, she thinks she's sacred, and she doesn't just shout that into the mirror.
Back to Zegler. Critics and audiences dragged her, rightfully so, for openly disrespecting the very character she was hired to play. Imagine getting paid millions to play Snow White and then going on a press tour telling the world how dumb Snow White is. That's like someone hiring Ryan Reynolds to play Deadpool, and him saying, honestly, I hate superheroes and this suit smells like garlic. Oh wait, Ryan might actually say that, but at least he's charming when he self-sabotages. Rachel, not so much.
I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion.
And fans, they snapped. The hashtag #NotMySnowWhite exploded online, gaining more traction than her box office ever did. It wasn't just backlash, it was a cultural rejection. People were fed up, tired of watching childhood classics get ripped apart in the name of being progressive. Disney thought they were making a statement, but all they made was a mistake. And Rachel, she became the face of it. The internet didn't cancel her. They rejected her loudly and in unison.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie.
Audiences weren't asking for a total rewrite of their childhood. They just wanted the magic back. Not some slam poetry performance tearing it all down, but Rachel, she wouldn't let it go. Every interview, every quote, every promo to another. Jab at the original, she hated the prince. She mocked the romance, she downplayed the story. Honestly, at this rate, we're just lucky she didn't call the poisoned apple a symbol of toxic produce.
Anyway, in one clip, she calls the Sharks, the rival gang of the Jets in this new version of West Side Story, a rainbow of the Latino community, and then struggles to name what constitutes Latino diversity.
But hold on, because somehow, this actually gets worse. Rachel didn't just offend Disney fans or critics. She managed to alienate everyone. Like full national tour-level alienation. You'd think a rising star would know the basics by now. Smile, wave, thank your fans, move on. But nope, not Rachel. One fan saw her at a Chili's, recognized her from West Side Story, and sweetly sang Maria as she walked by. And what did she do? Laugh. Thank him. Nah, she told Jimmy Kimmel that it ruined her night. Who says that? Thanks for recognizing. Me, commoner. Now my enchiladas are emotionally compromised. Seriously. That's the energy she brought to fame.
Hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
Babe, what business do you need?
And nope, it didn't stop there. Picture this. Rachel Zegler at Disneyland, standing right outside the Snow White ride, you know? The one themed after the exact movie she's starring in. Dream moment, right? Now guess what she says. She admits she has to pretend to love people when fans stop her for pictures. Pretend she openly told the world that she fakes being kind to the exact fans who made her famous. Who still show up? Who still care? If that doesn't scream ungrateful, I don't know what does. Snow White may have talked to birds, but this version talks down to fans.
For a very long time, it seems that nobody has quite captured the public's disdain like our girl, Rachel Zegler. The damage had been done.
Let's talk numbers because this wasn't just embarrassing. This was a catastrophe with a price tag. Disney threw down over $200 million to remake Snow White, then tacked on another $100 million just to market it. That's more than the GDP of entire small countries. And what did they get in return? An opening weekend so weak, it barely scraped together $43 million in the US. That's not a slow start. That's a full-blown box office collapse, and it got worse. By week 2, the film plummeted like an anchor to 66% drop in ticket sales. That's not a decline. That's the Titanic mid-scream. Lifeboats deployed, orchestra still playing. And Rachel Zegler. She was steering the ship straight into the iceberg.
She recently told that to a reporter and her psychiatrist that every inch of her body is built inside and out to be worshipped. My compassion has no boundaries.
No warning, no outrage, just a slow-motion disappearance. Theaters started quietly scraping snow. White off their schedules, pushing it to empty matinees or dropping it altogether like a bad habit. And China, the market where Disney usually cashes in, this thing tanked so hard it barely passed snack bar revenue less than $1 million. Final numbers? Over $150 million incinerated, gone. That's not a flop, that's a career hazard. One studio exec joked, "We don't talk about Snow White, we just pretend it never happened." Another probably faked a power outage just to avoid another meeting about it.
Snow White, they recreated it. You know, Disney's gone woke, as I keep telling you guys, even though a lot of the woke stuff is disappearing.
Go woke, go broke was just a meme. Until Rachel Zegler made it her career blueprint, she didn't just flop, she offended the fans, mocked the legacy, and somehow managed to insult the exact people paying to see her. Millions lost. Audiences alienated, studios embarrassed, and the grand finale. Rachel sobbing on a balcony during a stage show, while people watched it for free outside like it was Broadway's version of a clearance sale. No ticket required. Just walk. Buy and witness the fall live.
I'm a narcissist.
She took every blessing, rolled it into a burning ego grenade, and launched it straight into Disney's most iconic fairy tale. Talents, not enough. You can't teach humility. You either have it, or you Rachel Zegler it out the nearest window with a smug laugh. And if you thought the box office flop was the worst of it, think again. We're barely at the halfway mark of Rachel's masterclass in self-sabotage. Buckle up. Because the second half, it's where this crash turns into a full-blown Hollywood wildfire. Picture this. Someone crashes a Ferrari off a cliff, then climbs out, shrugs, and blames the cliff for being there. Yeah, that's the energy. And now we enter the chapter that really sealed the coffin shut. The dwarf disaster.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive. You'd think the most progressive thing would be get people jobs, and dwarfs want to work.
So here's where it really starts to unravel. Disney, in what might have been their last halfway sane decision before this movie, mutated into a radioactive PR meltdown. Originally planned to cast real actors with dwarfism for the 7 dwarves, you know, the roles that were literally written for them. But then Peter Dinklage woke up one day, logged into a podcast, and decided he was the CEO of all short-statured representation. He called the casting idea regressive. Boom, that's all it took. One interview, one quote. And suddenly, Disney hit the brakes so hard you could hear it from Burbank. Coming up in part 20. The 7 dwarfs didn't just vanish, they morphed into something else, and Rachel, she cheered it on. Stay tuned because it gets weird.
Not that many scripts that come down the pike.
No, only 7 of them.
That has, and there's seven dwarf jobs here. But because I think it was Peter Dinklage said this is, this is not right.
All it took was one rant. One rant from a guy who already has an Emmy shelf bigger than most people's kitchens, and Disney folded like a wet napkin. Peter Dinklage called the original dwarf casting regressive, and instead of standing their ground or opening a nuanced conversation, Disney panicked. Full-blown corporate meltdown. They scrapped the original cast plan, abandoned the idea of giving real dwarf actors meaningful roles, and replaced them with what? CGI blobs. Glowing, soulless, fake-looking cartoon smudges that looked like they were rendered on a 2007 laptop by an unpaid intern. It wasn't diversity. Was damage control gone wild?
Spend 1 minute on Snow White and how it totally imploded at the box office this weekend.
Rachel is literally the star of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. Like, she acts like her life is so bad.
And guess what? The real dwarf actors were furious. And honestly, who could blame them? These roles were made for them. Rare, mainstream, high-paying opportunities that don't come around often. But Disney yanked it all away in the name of appearing progressive. The irony, they tried to be inclusive by being exclusive. Real actors came forward and called it what it was, a betrayal dressed up as virtue. One of them nailed it, saying, "Peter's rich, we're not." And that's the brutal truth. These weren't people looking to lecture Hollywood, they just wanted to work. But apparently, Disney would rather be clapped for CGI blobs than questioned for giving actual humans a shot.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's hot.
And you wonder why people are turning from this stuff in droves.
And then because the circus never stops, Rachel Zegler decided to open her mouth again. She proudly told the press that replacing the dwarves with CGI blobs meant they were moving past stereotypes. Oh, bravo, Rachel. Go ahead and tell a group of unemployed dwarf actors how proud you are that they've been replaced by glittery polygons. That's like setting someone's house on fire and then patting yourself on the back for reducing their carbon footprint. In one flawless move, she managed to piss off everyone. Progressives called it performative nonsense. Traditional fans said she butchered the story, and neutral audiences just checked out. A true talent, offending the entire room without even trying.
Love you. I love me. I love you. I get stopped for photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and I have to pretend like, oh God, I love you.
But we're not done with the chaos. Oh no, because next came Rachel's boldest rewrite yet. She took one of the most beloved fairy tales in history and girl-bossed it straight into the void. Remember when Snow White was about kindness, love, and actual character growth? Yeah, Rachel decided all that was boring. In her version, Snow White doesn't dream of true love anymore. She dreams of becoming a leader. Because obviously, nothing says magical bedtime story like overthrowing monarchies and giving TED Talks about female empowerment. Forget fairy tales. Rachel gave us a politically charged PowerPoint in a ball gown. Ready for part 24. Because the next move Rachel made practically lit Disney's brand on fire.
Once she believes that a co-star might just outshine her, she's gonna send that compassion for a smoke break, and out pop the claws, and out comes the Hollywood hitman in high heels.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Oh, and let's not forget the way Rachel treated her co-star. Andrew Burnap, cast as the prince, a literal Disney prince, probably thought he scored the role of a lifetime. But on the press tour, Riesla joked his scenes might get cut entirely. Like evaporated, Thanos snapped from the film. Can you imagine pouring your heart into a Disney classic and the lead actress laughs off your screen time like it's a blooper? But that's Rachel's whole energy, smug, detached, I'm better than this fairy tale vibes. Every interview felt less like promo and more like a college sophomore's podcast rant about Tumblr feminism. And critics. Brutal. Called the movie a Frankenstein girl boss remake. No heart, no warmth, no joy. Just Rachel standing on her metaphorical soapbox, preaching about being the future of monarchy, or whatever delusional narrative she was spinning that week.
You know I'm talking about, the very same delusional diva that once compared herself to the Winged Victory, a masterpiece statue in the Louvre that, even missing its arms and missing its legs, still is more self-aware than Zegler.
And to everyone,
And just when you thought maybe, just maybe she'd step back, let the PR team mop up the mess. Nope. Rachel Zegler went full scorched earth. Forget Disney charm, she transformed into a political wrecking ball mid-promo tour. And you can't make this up. This girl was promoting a family movie, the kind suburban moms take their toddlers to. And in the middle of all that, she posts, F Donald Trump. Trump supporters should never know peace. Word for word. Really, Rachel? 'Cause nothing says bring your kids to the magic of Disney like telling half the country they should basically rot in hell. It's flawless. Marketing. Truly. Who's running this campaign, Cruella? The best part? She acted like it was brave. Like torching your audience mid-tour is some kind of award-worthy activism.
Disney's Snow White said that harm should befall Trump and his voters. Do not see this film. And this is obviously an image that she put up. I think this is from Instagram. She wrote, Rachel Zegler, this is the girl who plays Snow White. I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred.
Rachel didn't just step in, she stomped with both feet. After the 2024 election, she went full political firestorm, telling the world she couldn't imagine raising a daughter in this new America. A bold statement, maybe too bold one. You're the face of a movie aimed at family audiences who live in the exact states you're shading. But she wasn't done. She took her Disney press tour and turned it into a campaign rally. The result? A digital riot. Boycotts exploded on ex-conservative. Anchors like Megyn Kelly publicly demanded her firing. Meanwhile, Gal Gadot, yes. That Gal Gadot looked like she was mentally calculating an escape route in every interview. No chemistry, no smiles. Just tension so thick you could butter popcorn with it. Watching them promote Snow White was like watching two coworkers forced to carpool after a workplace scandal. Painful, forced, completely off-brand.
Rachel Zegler, she's an asshole.
So what does a once-hyped Hollywood darling do after nooking $1 billion brand and lighting every industry bridge on fire? Apparently, she heads back to Broadway like it's some kind of PR rehab. A tweet from Eric Dory summed it up best. An enormous cultural failure, Disney's Snow White, which cost $250 million to produce, crashed with a miserable $43 million opening. That's not gossip. That's a P-certified humiliation. Naturally, Rachel packed her bags and ran to the theater world. Enter Evita. Sounds like redemption, right? Wrong. It only got worse. Critics tore the show apart. But the real kicker, the production started live streaming her performance outside the venue for free. Yep, paying $150 for a ticket meant sitting inside, watching her on a giant screen, while randoms on the sidewalk got the same show for nothing. That's not avant-garde. Insulting.
She just refuses to change her ways because to her it's about ego, not evolution. And it doesn't matter whether it's her hijacking an interview that's above her pay grade or out promoting a film campaign.
Ticket sales tanked. There were nights where they had to literally give away seats. Some people were handed free entry like it was a high school dress rehearsal. And then to top it off, a clip went viral of Rachel crying on stage after a standing ovation. Was it sincere? Maybe, but social media didn't buy it. Most people called it performative. Another PR stunt to make her look like the misunderstood starlet instead of the person who created this mess in the first place.
A tweet from Eric Daughtry. Just in, an enormous cultural failure, Disney's Snow White, which cost $250 million to produce, raked in a miserable $43 million during its premiere, and that's from the AP.
And then came the whispers. Backstage murmurs. Rumors that Rachel tried to rewrite parts of the Evita script, you guessed it, for modern sensitivity. Because of course she did. Why respect a legendary show's legacy when you can inject your own political filter into it and call it empowerment? She allegedly wanted edits, toned down lines, more progressive framing. No concrete proof, just insider buzz, but with Rachel's track record, no one's shocked. When you've burned this many bridges, the industry doesn't give you the benefit of the doubt. It gives you distance.
Others have posted on X to complain that they've paid a lot for tickets, only for the biggest number in the show to happen off stage, something the show's composer has some sympathy for.
I think there will be people who are disappointed that she hasn't sung it live in the theatre, but I think it's going to be greatly outweighed by the theatricality of using film in that way.
At this point, Rachel Zegler isn't just a failed Disney princess, she's a full-blown cautionary tale. A walking, talking masterclass in how to nuke your own career with nothing but a press mic and a decent Wi-Fi signal. She replaced real actors with lifeless CGI, turned a beloved fairy tale into a loud feminist lecture, and used toddler-targeted promo tours to shout her political hot takes into the void. She's checked every box on the Hollywood self-destruction bingo card. And yet, somehow, she's still getting jobs, proof that Hollywood never learns. But the audience, oh, they've learned. They've learned to scroll past her movies, mute her message, and ignore the crocodile tears.
I was gifted very good cheekbones from God, which is something I thank him for constantly. When I was a kid, I used to manifest having cheekbones and dimples, and I got them both. Keep manifesting, ladies.
Rachel Zegler didn't just kill the fairy tale, she buried it alive under a mountain of arrogance, delusion, and that performative truth-teller energy you usually find in 20-slide Instagram rants about healing and self-love, while Disney lay bleeding on the corporate floor. Rachel was out there telling ID magazine in 2025 that her platform was a responsibility to speak truth. Truth from the same actress who turned Snow White into a TED Talk about toxic patriarchy and literally erased the prince because love is apparently outdated now. And look, fans don't care if celebs have opinions. They all do. What pushed people away was how Rachel weaponized her roles to force-feed them. Every press stop turned into a personal protest. Every mic became a megaphone. Every fairy tale, a lecture.
And for Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler and a wonderful queen, because there's another one.
Every time she spoke, it felt less like an interview and more like detention. Rachel didn't just play the character, she hijacked it. She rewrote it, then used it as a platform to roll her eyes at anyone who actually loved the original. And when fans pushed back, here came the usual PR band-aids. Oops, got emotional. Spare us. These weren't apologies, they were cosplay apologies. Straight from the PR playbook, complete with smudged mascara and sad lighting. And just when you thought it was over, boom, another unfiltered hot take that torched what little goodwill she still had. It wasn't growth, it was a cycle. And audiences were done playing along.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
But this wasn't just a Rachel meltdown. It snowballed into a full-scale Disney crisis. The House of Mouse had already been limping from one remake disaster to the next. Audiences were losing patience. From lifeless live-actions to tone-deaf reboots, Disney was tripping on its own legacy. But Snow White? That was the breaking point. That was the cultural moment when audiences everywhere said, nope, we're done. And when the outrage began, guess who got dragged to the guillotine? Not the writers, not the producers. Even the genius who replaced beloved dwarfs with haunted CGI blobs. Nope. all eyes, all blame, all wrath landed squarely on Rachel Zegler.
At this point, she sort of feels like the poster child for it. What's really interesting is that Zegler's fall from grace has been a very satisfying watch for plenty of people.
Snow White just flopped. Again. Wait, how does a movie bomb twice at the box office? You've heard of a film crashing once but 2 theatrical nosedives in 2 months. That's not failure. That's legacy-level embarrassment. Rachel Zegler didn't just ruin a remake, she became the face of Disney's identity crisis. Inside sources say execs were panicking, some wanted to shelve the entire $200 million project. Why? Because their lead actress couldn't stop waging war on half the country on Twitter. That's not bold, that's brand suicide. Departments tied to the film gutted. Layoffs hit marketing hard. Word was, don't ever use Rachel for promos again. She became box office poison, PR kryptonite. The actress no studio wanted on their Zoom call. And the internet. It turned into a Roman Colosseum, TikTok, YouTube, X. Clips of her calling the prince a stalker, trashing love, mocking Disneyland fans. Millions of views. Not the fun meme energy. We're talking, walking, red flag fairy tale wrecker. Entitled Disaster, actual trending tags under her name. She didn't just lose the audience, she became the cautionary tale.
Rachel Zegler and Disney Snow White walk into a psychiatrist's office. The doctor says, "What's the problem, ladies?" Rachel frowns and says, "It's the fans." Snow White shakes her head and says, "Zegler."
Even Bill Maher. That Bill Maher. The guy who makes fun of conservatives for a living torched Snow White as woke trash. And when Bill Maher and Candace Owens are basically holding hands in agreement. You know it's a disaster. Candace didn't hold back either. She called Rachel the worst casting decision in Hollywood history. And honestly, she might be right. Because this isn't just political anymore. It's personal. Even people who don't care about the whole woke versus anti-woke mess are saying the same thing. Rachel Zegler has no public charm whatsoever, and that's the real problem. Nobody wants to feel insulted by the princess they paid to watch.
Snow White just bombed at the box office again. How the hell did that happen? You've heard of a movie flopping at the box office, but have you heard of a movie flopping at the box office twice in 2 months?
This stuff in droves, right? Like that the original prince was stalking her. I don't even really remember what Snow White was about either. I don't know, midgets gangbanged or whatever it was. It was a wholesome family film, and now they've turned it into woke trash.
I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism, the patriarchy, and about abortion. The reality is she's just not stable, like the majority of people in Hollywood. They're just not stable human beings.
By now, Rachel Zegler's name isn't red carpet royalty anymore. It's a Hollywood horror story. Studios aren't just pausing her projects, they're reconsidering her altogether. And the whispers, they're getting louder. Insiders say she's now seen as radioactive in casting rooms. Not because she lacks talent, she can act, but because nobody wants to deal with the PR circus that comes with her. You don't just cast Rachel Zegler. You inherit a Twitter meltdown, a YouTube backlash, and a boardroom full of nervous executives. And if watching Hollywood careers crash and burn in slow motion is your thing, smash that subscribe because we're just getting started.